Hello everyone, my name is Camille, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today's video, what we're going to be talking about is how to achieve photos like this in Luminar 4. So I used to always edit in Photoshop. Photoshop, it was my baby, but recently over the past few months, I've discovered a software called Luminar 4, and I've just basically fallen in love with it, mainly because it uses technology that is not in Photoshop. And in fact, you can install Luminar as a plugin into Photoshop, and you can use their technology within Photoshop, but that's been a little bit buggy for me. I'm not sure if it's just my personal experience with Luminar plugins in Photoshop or if it's just like a general thing. You can try that. But in today's video, what we're going to be doing is going to the Luminar 4 software and trying it out, or mainly showing you guys how I edit my photos with Luminar 4. So without any further ado, let's hop into the computer behind me and show you how it's done. So first things first, what you guys want to do is open up Luminar. We have it all opened up, and for me, it automatically opens up within the last projects that I've been working on. If you want to open your projects or your photos or find your photos, all you want to do is navigate to the library tab over here, press the plus icon, and just navigate to the folder where all your photos are stored. So for example, for me, I can go to photography, pick whichever folder, press select folder, and it will open up over here. And when you do have that selected folder, like I have over here, raw, all those photos that are in that folder will show up on the left hand side here, and you can scroll through them, have a look through them, and choose whichever you want. The one that you want, you just click on it, and then make sure you press the edit tab over here, and you have all your editing accessories around to the right here. And it's got several tabs. We got the standard sort of lighting, exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, and we got these AI enhance and AI structure, which I will get into more details in a second. So we're going to go through actually editing this photo. I've already edited this photo. This is how it looks, the way I've edited it, but it's been a little while ago, so the way we're going to edit it in today's video is probably going to be a little bit different to what I've edited it in the first place, mainly because, hey, I cannot remember the exact settings of the photo. I remember how it looks like, but you can never get the same edit twice in the row. You just don't remember the exact number. There's too many sliders. But let's try again as close as possible to the original edit that I've done previously. So first things first, we got the photo. It's pretty bland. It's got a little bit of color, but it's really bland. I shoot in RAW, which kind of reduces a little bit of the colors, giving me these highlights, giving me those shadows, allowing me to actually get in there and get what I want from the image. So first things first, we're going to go to the Essentials tab over here. This is the Essentials tab, and we're going to adjust the smart contrast. The contrast on here is amazing because it uses AI technology. As you can see, it's not just regular contrast where it grabs the highlights and the shadows. It also kind of analyzes the image and tries to make it look better, so it doesn't crash the highlights or the shadows. You do have your histogram over here, so you can look at it if you want, but this software is amazing. But we'll get into the depths of this software and why it's amazing in the moment. Let's just do the simple bit. So should we up the highlights a little bit, reduce? Let's up it a little bit, like so, and maybe darken the shadows. Yeah, let's darken the shadows, get those blacks in there. There we go. We've got everything sorted. The highlights, the shadows, the contrast is there in the image. Now what we want to do is go on AI enhance, and let's just enhance the accent. And what the accent is, it's like the lighting, but it's kind of like a mixture of contrast and like the highlights and the shadows, but it just makes the image look a lot nicer. It kind of brightens up the really dark shadows, as you can see, but it also neutralizes the highlights. It kind of just, the AI just works in the way that the image looks good. If you got a sky, let's say if we had a sky over here, let's say if it detected a sky, unfortunately we have only trees, we can enhance the sky and the sky will look beautiful, just like in this photo right here. We can get beautiful skies just by moving a slider. You don't have to mask anything, it masks things automatically. And if you do want to edit a mask, you can just click here, brush, radial mask and whatnot. I will show you this later on when we get into the face, because it actually shows the mask of the face. And then let's go on AI structure. Actually, let's go back to the AI enhance, because I think we've just done a little bit too much of it. About 14%. Yeah, about 14, 17, 17% looks good. AI structure plays around with the structures. Either makes them, kind of sharpens them, but doesn't over sharpen them, or sort of softens them down. A little bit like you would be using a mist filter, a dark mist filter, which is beautiful. The dark mist filters are pretty expensive. They cost $100 upwards, and you can get that look by just doing this. But let's sort of enhance the image, get it nice and sharpened. There we go, because everything's quite soft thanks to the trees and just the weather we shot in. It was overcast, so we got really nice and soft lighting. So that AI structure, just enhancing the structures, especially the trees, these lines going back and forth, really sort of separate the subject from the rest of the what do you call it, of the image and the surroundings. And we could also boost it if we want to, but I don't think any boost is really needed on this image. Let's just boost a little bit, just a little bit. I just kind of want to, I wish to slide up and down to random velocities just to have a look at the changes of the image, because the image does change. And I think if you go slow, you don't really see the change as dramatic as it would be. I think six is a good spot. We got these sort of textures over here. If we turn it off, as you can see, there is a big difference. There's a very big difference in the image. Now let's get into color. This is where we're going to just enhance the color. This is just standard saturation and a vibrance. Let's increase the saturation a little bit just to get those colors into the image. I think 20 is a very good number. As you can see, it's already boosted up the image quite a lot. The skin tones look really nice, and everything else looks really nice. And let's just boost up the vibrance, get it all nice and vibrant. And as you can see, boy, oh boy, this looks beautiful. If we zoom in, I think the zoom in was a little bit too much. As you can see, we got some beautiful colors, the beautiful browns and blacks, and over here like the greens, and also the blacks over here with a little bit of a tint of sort of like purplish as well. I'm guessing, especially in the hair. Look how beautiful the image is. It's just amazing. I love the hair. I love everything. But let's zoom out. I really love this structure here. There's some really good framing by myself, not gonna lie. Right, so that's really it for the color and saturation. We don't really need to do anything else. It's just standard color saturation, so that's nothing special. The special things are the AI things that are not in Photoshop, which I'm really amazed at. Black and white conversion, if you do want to convert your image to black and white, you can do, and just like enhance a specific color in the image or whatnot, then you can do, but I don't think this is needed. Can we just turn this off? We can. There we go. That's just how easy it is. Nice, beautiful. Okay, details enhancer. This is also based on AI, and it detects different types of details: big details, small details, large details, medium details. It's really great. It's kind of like the sharpening tool, but instead of me having to go around and masking a specific area and then enhancing the details, it sort of has its own mask. It detects specific details. So let's say the little details of the tree, as you can see, we can really enhance that tree, but we don't want that tree to be really in focus. There's no point to do so. And then that's the bigger details, sort of like the larger objects. We can still sort of enhance it if we want to. I don't think we need to do any of that. Do we need to enhance any of the big details? I mean, we can do by maybe like 9%. I think 9% looks good. Gives the image this sharpness, but at the same time doesn't over sharpen the image, because it only focuses on the large detail. Doesn't over sharpen the background. A lot of the times when you use just a regular sharpening tool, maybe if we demonstrate it with this, I'm not sure if it will show. No, not in this software, but in Photoshop, when you just use the regular sharpening tool, it actually ends up over sharpening the background, and the bokeh just looks really bad. And this just kind of detects the main subject in an image. Sometimes it doesn't get it right, but that's why you can just edit the mask and just correct it by clicking editing mask and choosing the brush or radial or whatnot. If you choose a brush, you can just draw around the subject and it'll be perfectly fine. Now let's go on to denoise. Denoise, just a regular denoise. It's assisted by the AI, so it allows you to denoise the color. So for example, if the colors are conflicting, which I don't really see any of the colors conflicting in this image, but if they are, this AI feature will fix them up nicely and beautifully. But I always like to the luminosity and the color denoise, just in case there are some conflicting colors or in general some noise that I cannot see. This feature will just fix it up without me even noticing. And it's AI based, so in theory it should not break the image. Sometimes it does, but it's very, very rare. And the landscape enhancer, just as it says, it enhances the landscape, the background of the landscape, the things around the subject. Let's do a little bit of this. And what it basically does, it works with the highlights and the shadows and just generally the contrast, but only focusing on the landscape and nothing else. It doesn't focus on your main character. As you can see, the main character is still the same exposure. It's kind of focusing on this. It's kind of identifying this as a landscape, a little bit of this, a little bit of background. We can add a little bit of the golden hour if you want. Yeah, let's add a little bit of golden hour. It kind of just simulates the lighting of a golden hour. So if you're filming in overcast or shooting in overcast, you can add this and it will feel like you shot in the golden hour tower, which is very, very difficult, and it just looks beautiful. Look at these skin tones. Look at this, it just looks beautiful. The image looks amazing. And then foliage enhancer, just as it says, it detects any foliage in the area within the image, and it just enhances it. As you can see, boom. I don't have to do any masks or anything. We don't want it too green, but we want it a little bit green. So I think 1817 is good. I think maybe that's a little bit too high. Let's try 8. 8 looks good. No, a little bit too high. Let's do 5. 5 looks good. Actually, to be honest, it's taking a little bit too much away from the main character. I think 2. 2 is a good one. We can add a vignette. I don't tend to add vignettes to my photos. Occasionally I do. To my thumbnails I do, but to photos it's very rare that I do so. Now there are other few tabs over here. We have sky replacement. So obviously if we had a sky, it will select a sky. You can select, there's a selection tool over here. You scroll down, choose whichever sky you want, and it will just replace the sky, and you can change your position, fix it up and whatnot. AI over here, this is also to do with the sky, the warmth of the sky, the amount of detail and the object selection and the relighting of the sky, just so you can match it up with the scene of the rest of your photo, just in case you have replaced the sky. You can add sun rays over here. I don't tend to add sun rays because it's a little bit tacky. Personally, me, I don't use the sun rays at all. It's just not needed whatsoever, in my opinion. I mean, if you want to add it to your photos, if it plays a key part in your photos, do so, but in my opinion it doesn't. Right, next thing is dramatic, and dramatic is to do with the image once again, and it plays around with just the sharpness and the contrast, and it makes things a little bit more dramatic. I don't tend to overdo it, because if you do overdo it, as you can see, it just over sharpens the image, over contrasts the image, but in some cases this would look really good. For this particular image it doesn't, so what I tend to do is just add a little bit to it if it matches the image. About 7 works really well with this image, so let's just move on. Let's leave a dramatic. This is like matte look to your image if you want to. It just applies like a thin filter to your image, and it does look good in some cases, and this image only benefits from a little bit of a matte look, as you don't really need as much of a matte look within this particular image. Mystical, this is a really nice one. I really like this mystical one because it softens the details, and I know we have sharpened the details, especially on the trees and the previous settings. It looks like it's been shot with a mist filter or black mist or a black pro filter, whatever you want to call them. They're named differently, and you can increase this and decrease this. Obviously this is AI based, so it won't be exactly the same as a black mist filter, but adding just a little bit really enhances the image. As you can see, this is with the mystical effect and this is without it. It just adds that oomph to the image. Color LUTs, you can add LUTs to your image if you want. I don't tend to play around with LUTs. I don't like LUTs. I don't know why, but I've never been a fan of LUTs. I tend to make my own color grade, and I save it as a preset, and then I just use that for that one particular edit or set of photos, just to have the same and consistent edit and just edit it slightly, just in case the lighting's a little bit different. But personally, I don't play with LUTs anywhere when it comes to photo or video editing. Texture overlay, once again, you can add a texture overlay and sort of overlay your image. I feel that's a little bit tacky. I don't tend to do so. You can add like a glow effect to your image if you want. I mean, if you're doing like a dreamy sort of effect and whatnot, or if you're going for this stylistic choice, you can go for it. I don't normally add glow to my image. Maybe like occasionally, maybe like just a little bit. It makes the image look really nice, but at the same time, I think it just makes it a little bit too tacky, a little bit too much. You can add a film grain, kind of self-explanatory, just like any other editor. And you can also add a fog if you want to, but it just seems like someone just put a white piece of paper in front of your image. And now this is where the magic happens. This is probably the best thing within this software, which is the portrait editing mode. It uses AI in order to fix your portraits. As you can see, Rihanna, our model for this photo shoot, or for this photo, she doesn't really have many blemishes or anything. She has perfect skin. She has a beautiful, perfect skin without any blemishes or anything that needs fixing within her face. This AI skin enhancer, portrait enhancer, just makes things look amazing. You can enhance your model's skin, their faces. You can enhance, you can add light, you can remove shine just in case there's a little bit too much shine from the light source. So if we zoom in into Rihanna's face and use the AI skin enhancer, as you can see, well, I mean, Rihanna's face is pretty, like, her skin is pretty smooth already, but typically if there are any blemishes on the skin or any imperfection, the AI would focus on that and it would sort of smooth it out as much as possible. As you can see, it's not really doing too much on Rihanna's face, as she does have a pretty nicely and smooth skin. Also, the lighting, the current lighting on the photo is really helping her skin to be smoothed out even more. But this is what the AI skin enhancer would do. It would smooth out any blemishes, any imperfections on the face, on the skin. And then the shine removal tool, which simply removes any of the shine created by any harsh lighting within the subject's face or their skin or just anywhere on their body, in order to create this nice and soft lighting on the subject's skin. Now moving on to the portrait enhancer. Portrait enhancer is a very nice tool, especially when your lighting isn't up to par or your lighting's a little bit messed up, where your scene has very good lighting but then your subject's face isn't lit up the way you want it. You can actually use the face light option to add a light to their face, allowing you to sort of more manipulate and fake lighting on their face. It's very good, very useful in order to make your subject pop out and sort of stand out from the rest of the scenery, and also creates this enhanced look, and it makes it look really nice. It gives you this highlight of their face. As a final result, that face light adds the final oomph to the image. Moving on, eye whitening, eye enhancer, allowing you to correct those eyes, and you can enlarge them if you want. You can make them smaller. It's all up to your personal preference. Personally, me, I try not to enlarge the eyes too much because it just gives this unnatural look. Dark circle remover simply just removes the raccoon eyes from your subject, from your model. So the section around their eyes is just a tiny bit brighter. Facelift 2.0 is just out of this world. No matter how good the jawline is of your model, sometimes depending on what angle you shoot at, the jawline doesn't look to its best, and you can just correct that. You can correct it by slimming their face a little bit, adjusting it, just so it looks as good and the best it possibly can. And as you can see, her jawline is a little bit thinner, just a tiny bit thinner, not too much. If you do overdo it, it just looks really unnatural, but if you thin down that jawline a little bit, it makes it look really nice. You can also enlarge the eyes. I don't tend to enlarge the eyes because it just makes things look a little bit too fake, but sometimes depending on your stylistic choices within your image, you might want to enlarge those eyes, but it's all up to your own preference. There's also the option of improving the eyebrows, making those lips a little bit more saturated, adding a little bit more redness to them, and darkening those lips. And finally, teeth whitening. You can actually whiten your teeth without having to play around with any masks. But I'm afraid within this image, there's no really teeth that actually need to be whitened. Now moving over to high key. High key it really plays around with the contrast, the highlights, the shadows, and it just enhances them a little bit more by using this slider. You can just play around with it, give it a little bit more of a dynamic high key, standard high key. I kind of just use the default slider and see what I can come up with. I don't go too much into depth within high key, but you can do if you want. It really just accentuates those details. And finally, within the portrait section, the autumn effect, there's actually two types of autumn effects, and in reality they both do the same thing. It just plays around with the shadows within the image, kind of neutralizing the image a little bit. But once again, it's still to do with the highlights and shadows, just enhancing them just a little bit more thanks to the inbuilt AI within Luminar 4. And finally, moving over to the professional tab, which gives you the final adjustments on your image. It allows you to make those fine tunes and adjustments. So within the advanced contrast, you just play around once again with the highlights and the shadows, just finely tuning that image at the very end. Moving over to adjustable gradients, it just allows you to adjust the gradients of the image. So for example, if the top of the image is a bit too dark or the bottom, you can select a portion of the image and just play around the exposure, the highlights, the warmth of the image, the vibrance, and a bit like that. And then moving on to the last options at the bottom, those are things like such as dodge and burn, color enhancer, photo filter, simple and the default things that you would normally find on Photoshop. I don't tend to use those. Same goes for split toning. I don't tend to use those options, mainly because it's not part of my personal stylistic choices, but you can go ahead and have a look and add photo filters or dodge and burn to your photos if that is necessary in order for you to achieve the look that you're after. So unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like. If you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. If you guys see anything in my work that you would like to learn on how to do, or just in general, like you see something you're really interested in my work, and you want to learn on how to achieve a specific look, then just let me know in the comment section below and I will show you, or just make a video on how to do it or how to achieve that specific look or effect, whatever software I used in order to create it. But instead of me blabbing on, I'm going to end this video here. So if you guys enjoyed it, thank you so much for watching. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.